I came home 4 hours early on a Thursday afternoon to surprise my wife with flowers. I heard them before I even reached the bedroom door. My wife's laugh. And then, the unmistakable voice of the man who has been my best friend since we were 11 years old. I stood in my own hallway for a full minute, holding a bouquet of yellow tulips, completely unable to move. My hands were shaking so badly the plastic wrapping around the flowers was crinkling, but my mind was completely frozen. Then I opened the door, and my wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "It's not what you think." That's what she said. After everything I'm about to tell you, it's not what you think. I'll try to keep this coherent, but I'm still not in a great place. I'm 34, male. My wife, Diane, is 33. We've been together for 7 years, married for 3. No kids, thank God, because at least that's one massive complication I don't have to figure out right now. My best friend Cole has been in my life since 6th grade. We grew up on the same street, traded video games, and went to college together. He was the best man at my wedding. He gave a speech that made my mother cry and had the whole room laughing. I have photos of that speech on my phone right now, and looking at them feels like looking at a stranger. By most people's standards, Diane and I had a great marriage. Not perfect, because no marriage is, but we were solid. We communicated well, or at least I thought we did. We had the same financial goals. Talked about buying a house next year, and maybe starting a family the year after. Then, 3 weeks ago, she mentioned she'd been feeling distant from me. Work stress, she claimed. She told me she just needed some emotional space to process some things. I gave her that space without a single argument. I thought I was being a good, supportive husband. Meanwhile, Cole started coming around more after that. Checking in on me, he said, making sure I was doing okay with everything. I sat on my porch, poured him a beer, and told him about Diane feeling distant. He just nodded, looked me in the eye, and said relationships go through phases. He told me to just be patient with her. He said that directly to my face, knowing exactly what he was doing. And for 3 weeks I believed him, until that fateful Thursday afternoon, when the entire lie came crashing down. To understand how it blew up, you have to know that I work in logistics. On Thursdays, I usually don't get home until 7 in the evening. But this specific Thursday, my final afternoon meeting got canceled early, and I decided to use the free time to do something nice. I stopped at a local florist on the way home and bought those yellow tulips, her absolute favorite. I texted her that I was on my way, but she didn't reply. I figured she was just napping or had her phone on silent. When I turned down our block, I noticed Cole's car was parked 2 streets over. I didn't even register it as a red flag when I drove past. He lives nearby and his car is always around our neighborhood, so I had absolutely no reason to think anything of it. I let myself in through the front door, feeling good about the surprise. Then the house went completely quiet, except for the muffled, unmistakable sounds coming from upstairs. I stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour, the cold realization washing over me. And then I finally forced myself to open the bedroom door. Diane scrambled frantically for the sheet to cover herself. Cole couldn't even bring himself to look at me. He just stared at the floor. And my wife looked straight at me and said those 5 words I will never forget. "It's not what you think." I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I put the tulips down on the dresser very carefully, right next to our wedding photo. Then I walked back out of my own house and sat on the front porch steps for 20 minutes because I had absolutely nowhere else to go. When I finally went back inside, my mind was entirely numb. I walked into the room and told them both to get out. Cole grabbed his clothes and his shoes and left without saying a single word to me. Not one word. Over 20 years of friendship, and he couldn't even look me in the eyes. Diane tried to start an explanation, crying, but I told her I needed her out of the room immediately. She went to the guest bedroom downstairs. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. I stayed up staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. The next morning, she knocked softly on the door and asked if we could talk. I said yes, because as much as I wanted to block out the entire world, I needed to know the truth. She sat down on the very edge of the bed and started crying before she even said a word. A week ago, seeing Diane cry would have broken my heart. I would have gone straight to her, put my arms around her, and tried to fix it. This time, I just sat in the chair across the room and waited for her to speak. Diane told me it had been going on for 2 months. Cole had been coming over on Thursday afternoons, specifically scheduling it when he knew I would be stuck at work. He had a key to our house. I was the one who gave him a spare last year in case of emergencies. I handed him the tool he used to betray me. She said it started after a night the 3 of us had dinner together, and Cole offered to drive her home because I had to stay late at the office. She claimed it just happened, that she didn't plan it. I asked her if she loved him. She hesitated, looked away, and said she didn't know. I asked her if she wanted to save our marriage. She said she didn't know that either. The brutal honesty of that response was probably the most painful thing she could have said to me. But she said it. There was no performance, no false promises, no begging for forgiveness, just a hollow, echoing, I don't know. I told her I needed her to pack a bag and go stay with her sister for a few days, while I figured out my next steps. She nodded, packed her things, and left the house. If she wasn't in love with him, the answer to my question should have been an immediate, definitive no. The fact that she had to think about it was its own answer. I spent the next couple of days in absolute isolation, pacing the empty rooms. I called a divorce lawyer first thing Monday morning to set up an initial consultation. At that point, I thought I understood exactly what had happened. My wife cheated. My best friend betrayed me. End of story. I was wrong, because 4 days later, Cole sent me a text message that changed everything. Cole reached out after 4 days of total silence. It was a long text message sent at 11 p.m. on Saturday night. It read, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I owe you an explanation. Can we talk? I stared at the glowing screen for a long time, the anger flaring up in my chest. Then I typed back, say whatever you need to say right now. In this text. I'm not meeting you anywhere. What he sent back was a massive paragraph of text. He admitted he'd had feelings for Diane for a very long time, long before the affair started. He said he was deeply ashamed of what he did to me, and knew that nothing he said could ever fix the damage. But then he wrote something that caught me completely off guard. He said, Diane told me 3 weeks ago that she was going to tell you about us and end it. That's why she said she needed space. She was working up to ending things with me, not with you. I read that sentence 4 times, my mind racing. I immediately called Diane. She picked up on the second ring, her voice tight. I asked her point blank if what Cole said was true. She was quiet for a moment, and then she confessed. She said she had indeed ended things with Cole 2 weeks before I walked in on them. She claimed that what I witnessed was Cole showing up unannounced at the house, refusing to accept it was over, and things, in her exact words, getting out of hand one last time. According to both of them, she had called it off. Whether that was because she suddenly remembered her vows, or because she simply got scared of finally getting caught, I honestly don't know. She told me she didn't mention this during our first talk because she was terrified. I would think she was only making up a convenient lie to save herself. I want to believe she was trying to do the right thing in the end. But the reality is that 2 months of calculated, deliberate lies don't just vanish because you claim you were about to stop. As for Cole, that situation was already decided. We are completely done. There is no version of reality where a lifelong friendship recovers from this. He stood as the best man at my wedding and looked me in the eye, every week while sleeping with my wife. That's not a mistake. That's a deliberate choice made over and over again. It's been 3 weeks since that afternoon, and this will probably be my last update for a while. I sent Cole one final message before blocking his number, permanently across everything. I'm not angry at you anymore. I don't have enough respect for you left to be angry. Don't contact me again. He hasn't reached out since. Our mutual friends told me he's already trying to twist the narrative to our social circle, framing it as a highly complicated situation that wasn't entirely his fault, trying to salvage his reputation. When they told me that, I didn't even feel the urge to scream. I realized I was more exhausted than angry. Diane and I have had several long, brutal, and emotionally draining conversations since she returned from her sister's house. I met with my lawyer, and the divorce paperwork is fully drawn up and ready on my desk. But I haven't filed it yet. I haven't forgiven her. I don't even know if forgiveness is possible on a predictable timeline, or if it's something I even want. What I do know is that I don't want to make an irreversible, life-altering decision while operating from a place of pure shock and grief. I want to make this choice from somewhere steadier, when the dust has finally settled. We are actually starting couples counseling next week. It's a long shot, but I told Diane 3 conditions very clearly before agreeing to even sit in that therapist's room. 1. Complete and total transparency. Full access to her phone, email, passwords, and location tracking at any time. Not because I want to play detective or monitor her forever, but because right now, I cannot rebuild a shattered foundation on blind faith alone. 2. Cole is completely dead to her. No accidental run-ins, no checking his social media, no mutual friends who tolerate him. If she hesitates about cutting that tie for even a second, we are done. 3. If I find out there is even a single minor detail, timeline discrepancy, or lie she has omitted from her story, I walk immediately. No discussions, no second chances. I pack my bags and I leave. She agreed to all of it without a single second of hesitation or negotiation. I still don't know if this marriage survives the winter. Love alone doesn't just automatically fix a betrayal of this magnitude. But the yellow tulips are still sitting on the kitchen counter. They are completely dried out and withered now, But I haven't thrown them in the trash yet. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't.